We're going to look for the next few weeks at lessons from Daniel. Now, I have been studying the book of Daniel for a class that I have to teach. And let me just say, if you haven't paid attention to Daniel, it's a big book. It's not big in chapters. There's only 12 chapters in the book of Daniel, but it is huge in content. And of course, Daniel is known for a lot of prophecy, and that's big enough in and of itself. It's known for the story of Daniel in the lion's den, and of course, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. And all of those things it's known for, and it's common, and people study it for those reasons, and those are all great. And we may get into some of those aspects. But there is a common theme that runs through the entire book of Daniel, and I would say the life of the man Daniel. Daniel is begins the book as a young man, as a teenager, and ends the book as an older man. And he is just an amazing man of God, amazing person that we could look at so many things in his life and really model our walk with the Lord after him. But when the book of Daniel opens in chapter 1, verse 1, we know that it's talking about King Nebuchadnezzar is on the throne, and he has been conquering kingdom after kingdom after kingdom. And he's with those conquering those kingdoms, he takes people captive. And in that, he takes them primarily to be slaves, but specifically in the groups of all these people, he's taken some of the Hebrew children, some of the children from the tribe of Judah. These are children of Israel. And he's pulled a few of the best of the best of the best. The guys who are not like any other. And the Bible gives a description of some of them. It says it was those who there was no blemish found in them, good looking, gifted in wisdom, possessing knowledge, quick to understand, who had the ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. This was the Babylonian nation, the nation of Babylon. And so he's pulling a few of these, and these specific few are not there to just be slaves. They are there to actually serve in the king's court, to serve in the king's palace, and they're going to serve as wise men, magicians, sorcerers, all sorts of roles that these people are going to play. And we know throughout the book of Daniel there were places where Nebuchadnezzar or one of the kings would have a dream, and he would call in all of those magicians and sorcerers and all of those people to interpret dreams, and ended up that Daniel was the one who could do it through the power of his God, the one true God. But out of those that he pulled for this position, he pulled out for a specific service Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And it's when we first learn of Daniel and his three friends. When they are brought into this position, they actually have their original Hebrew names. The Bible says that Daniel is his Hebrew name, and the king named him Belteshazzar. Hananiah was given the name Shadrach, and then to Mishael was Meshach, and to Azariah they gave Abednego. So the king brings them in, and he changes their names. Now, the reason this is significant on some things that I've read and studied is that in their old names, their old Hebrew names honored the God of Israel. In the meanings of their original Hebrew names, it honored the God of Israel. When the king brings them in and renames them, he gives them names that now honor the gods of Babylon. So it's like every time the king calls their name, or anyone calls their new name, it's kind of a way of reminding them that they are in captive and now you work for me. It's a way of reminding them that your God let you down, in the king's opinion. Your God let you down, and now look where you are. Our gods are greater than your gods, and so we're going to rename you. I read in one of the commentaries that I was looking at, it said to exchange someone's name was a way to exercise authority over them and to change their destiny. When I thought about that phrase, I thought about an example that those of us who are married would understand this. Even in the picture of biblical marriage before the Lord, understanding the role of husband and wife in a marriage and in a family, when a woman gets married and she goes to that husband and takes his name, in that union and in taking his name, she does this very thing. She acknowledges her husband's authority as the priest of the home. She submits herself to that authority, and in taking that name, it speaks to her destiny, because now she is no longer who she used to be. She is forever Mrs. whatever her new last name is. That's her destiny. And I'm talking about the picture of biblical marriage before the Lord. That becomes her destiny. My maiden name was Allen, and that's who I was. Now I am Mrs. Wampler, and I will forever be. It speaks to the destiny of my life and marriage. Does that make sense? I also was actually talking about this with my husband, and we got to going back and forth, and he said, even in the Bible, there's so many examples of people who their name was changed, and at that point, their destiny changed. We think of Saul in the New Testament was changed to Paul. God changed his name because he was changing the destiny of what Paul would do with his life. He was no longer Saul. We could look at Abram was turned to Abraham, and all the different people. There's several in the Bible that speak to that. And so it's really this picture of these boys were stepping into this moment, but immediately the king was showing them, I'm in charge of you, I'm ruling over you, and I am changing your destiny by changing your name. One of the things that was required of these young men who were pulled aside was 3 years of training. And in that training, they would learn the literature, they would learn the language, the culture, the customs of the Babylonian Empire. And part of that was eating of the king's delicacies. But this requirement for Daniel and the 3 Hebrew children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, would defile all the laws that God had given them as a Jewish nation to follow and to obey. And these were just teenagers. These were just kids. It would have been easy. I think about teenagers today, not all of them. Thank the Lord we have some teenagers who stand for truth and stand up and speak the truth and say, I don't want to defile myself either. But these were just kids who were taken captive, who could have just said, it's going to be easier if we just go along to get along. It's going to be easier if we don't make waves. But I love what Daniel said when he learned that this was a requirement. I love his response, and many of you know it. It says in Daniel chapter 1:8, it says, but Daniel purposed in his heart. I'm stopping on it right there. Daniel purposed in his heart. The king has taken us captive. The king has stolen all of our beautiful vessels that were in our temple to our God, and he's put them in his temple to his God. The king has plundered, and he has taken people captive. He has destroyed our nation. The king has changed our name. He has done all of this. He's brought me into this inner court, and he is training me to be like the Babylonians, to think like the Babylonians, to act like the Babylonians, to speak like the Babylonians, to all of those things, to honor the gods of the Babylonians. And then it says, when Daniel realized that's what was happening, it says he purposed in his heart. He purposed in his heart. Now, yes, he went on to say in the rest of that verse, he went on to say that he purposed in his heart not to defile himself with the king's delicacies or the king's wine. And he goes on to find favor with the chief eunuch who is over these boys, and he convinces him to let us just have vegetables and water for this amount of time and see if we're not as good or better than the rest of those. But here's what I feel like this statement, Daniel purposed in his heart, I feel like this is the statement that the book of Daniel kind of sits on. The rest of Daniel's life, everything that would happen, every decision he would make, everything he would do in all of the chapters in the book of Daniel, every decision he would make would sit on that phrase, and it all happened because he purposed in his heart not to defile himself, not just with the food, but not to defile himself by looking to any other God but the one true God. What did he purpose to do in this moment? Well, to live for God in an ungodly kingdom. These Hebrew boys were coming into a very ungodly kingdom that was serving every kind of god out there, living these lifestyles that totally opposed the God of Israel. And Daniel purposed in his heart that in the middle of an ungodly world, I'm going to live for the one true God and honor him. He was a young man of character and integrity who grew to become an old man of that same character and that same integrity. So where is character born? Well, It's not born in a lion's den. It's not born in the trial. It's not born in a fiery furnace. It's not born in the middle of wrongful accusations of men. Character is born in the heart. It's born in the heart. It's developed in every godly decision that you make. It's developed in every opportunity you have to honor God. Every time you make a choice to honor God, to put God first, to prioritize God, that character is being developed. But it is born when you say, Kathy purposed in her heart. Daniel purposed in his heart. He made up his mind that I am not turning. Every time you take a stand for truth, it is tested in the fire. It is tested in those moments of trial. But it is developed in the daily, consistent decisions you make to honor God. But it is born in your heart, in that conversation with the Lord after you've accepted Him, to say, Lord, I honor you. I put you first. I prioritize you. Look, I want my life to say, Kathy purposed in her heart. If anybody ever writes a biography about my life, I don't think that's going to be happening. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if someone were to write a biography about my life, I hope somewhere in there's a statement that says, Kathy purposed in her heart. Purposed to not defile myself with the world's delicacies. Purposed to be what 1 Corinthians 15:58 says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. Today we can learn this lesson from Daniel. No matter where you've been and what you've done, no matter your age, no matter how far you've come, no matter what your past looks like, no matter what, today you can make a decision like Daniel and say, Lord, today I am purposing in my heart not to defile my life with the world's delicacies all around me.